This morning, 26 years ago, at 9:02 a.m., a bomb went off at the Alpha P Merrill Federal Building, and I know everyone is aware of that. And I've done this a couple of times already, and I try to do something different each time to show the recognition and of the people that I was fortunate enough to work with in my career with the USDA. That morning on the 19th, we had eight employees were in the Merrill Building, our office on the 5th floor. 7 of them died that day, and 1 survived. I've always mentioned their names here on the House floor, and tried to say something about them. And so that's basically what I'm going to do today. It's really difficult to think about their lives being taken. I know there's 161 more, but for me, I knew these people. I knew them for 20 years. And so a little different take on it this morning, and I hope you will bear with me. I can still see our office. After 26 years, I can still see, and I can still see where each one of them sat. And so I'm gonna open the door to our office as I would have 26 years ago, and talked about each one and where they possibly were that morning at 9:02 a.m. Carol Sue Cahill would have been the first person that you would have met if you walked into our office. She was there to answer the phone. She was a very religious person, a very sweet lady that we all loved, and she was there to direct people and to answer the phone, and she would have been the first person that you would have met if you had walked into our office. And then we had Rita Long. Rita would have been over on the right-hand side. Her desk and office would have been right there. And she was a document inspector. Our office sent a lot of horses and animals overseas, and that was her job, to read those export documents. The next person that you would have seen would have been Adele Higginbottom. Adele, when you saw her desk, it was stacked high with papers. It looked like a lot of our desks, a lot of our legislative assistants' desks. And she would always, when I would go in, she'd always say, "Come here, you've made mistakes on all this paperwork, we got to straighten it out." And that was her job, to do that. And then you would go on to the left, and you would see Dick Cummings. Dick Cummings was an investigator, and he investigated a lot of crimes in dealing with agriculture. And so Dick's office was back there where Representative West's office chair is. So you would have seen him there at 9:02 that morning. And then we have the next person you would probably see, and she probably wouldn't have been in her office, but she would have been up running around and walking and talking to everybody. And that was Dr. Peggy Clark. Some of y'all may remember, I talked about her back in 17 and 18. And she was a veterinarian there with USDA. And as you may know, our Secretary of Agriculture, Blaine Arthur, that was her mother. And she also, her daughter was Rosalind Biggs. Rosalind became a veterinarian as she grew up, and she worked for USDA Vet Services here in Oklahoma City. And I was fortunate to work with her and her mother. And of course, she was Scott Biggs's, Representative Scott Biggs. That was his wife. And so Margaret would have been around visiting and talking and going to everybody, and just a very energetic lady, and very nice. Jim Bowles, his office would have been over in the corner, and he would have been in there because he was the one that took care of all of our equipment, the things that we needed. And whenever field inspectors came, we always went back to his office. And then over here on the left would have been where Olin Bloomer would have been, and that's where the coffee machine was, and that's where you'd find Olin, by the coffee pot. And he did a great job, and he was he was a big man, real big, and he was just always giving everybody a hard time. And then I would mention one that survived the bombing. His name was Brian Espy. Dr. Espy was in his office in the back, and if you remember about the Merrill building, how it curved like that, he was in the back part of the 5th floor of our office. When Dr. Espy woke up, he was on a ledge looking out, nothing around him. He was just laying on that ledge. And he was deathly scared of heights, and the fire department came to get him out up from the ladder, and he wouldn't go. And he said, the firefighter said, "Yeah, you're coming. I'm taking you down." So you might have saw that on TV. That was a big deal that made the news a lot. And so those were my colleagues, those were my friends, and like I say, I hope I don't wear you out on this thing, but it's very important to me, and hopefully next year I'll be able to stand before you and do this same thing. But I did find something different today. One of our sergeants is named Steve Allman, and he brought this to me today. Steve was in law enforcement. He served in a lot of capacities, but I'm sure you will remember the famous picture of the firefighter with the little baby, Bailey Allman. Well, that's his relative, and he came to me today, and he asked me to wear this badge in honor of her and in honor of all the firefighters and all the law enforcement and first responders and everybody that came and helped, not only that day, but weeks ahead. I would just say that I've said this a lot. May we never forget. I know it's been 26 years. I understand that. But we have done the best that we can to keep the memory of these 7 alive that I knew personally, and the other 161. A lot of people that survived that bombing had a lot of issues, you know, especially when you're the only one that survived in your office. And so what I would like to do right now is to read the bill.
The clerk will read. No, I'm sorry, Representative West, you are recognized to read it yourself.
Whereas on April 19, 1995, at 9:02 a.m., a terrorist detonated a truck bomb at the Alfred P. Merrill Federal Building in Oklahoma City. And whereas this was one of the worst terrorist attacks ever to occur on United States soil, taking the lives of 168 people and injuring more than 850 others, many of them United States government employees who worked in the Alfred P. Merrill Federal Building. And whereas this cowardly act of domestic terrorism directly affected thousands of families and horrified millions of people across the state and across the nation. Whereas the people of Oklahoma and the United States responded to this tragedy through the remarkable efforts of local, state, and federal law enforcement personnel, firefighters, search and rescue teams, public and private medical personnel, and other emergency service personnel. Thousands of volunteers from the community who saved lives, assisted the injured and wounded, and comforted the bereaved, provided meals and support to those who came to Oklahoma City to offer assistance. Whereas this courageous response set what has become to be known as the Oklahoma Standard, which was later emulated by many Americans following the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. And whereas following the 1995 attack, the people of Oklahoma and the United States pledged to build and maintain a permanent national memorial to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those changed forever. Whereas this pledge was fulfilled by establishing the Oklahoma City National Memorial, which draws hundreds of thousands of visitors from around the world every year to the site of the attack. And whereas the inscription on the wall of the Oklahoma City National Memorial reads, "We came here to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those changed forever. May all who leave here know the impact of violence. May this memorial offer comfort, strength, peace, hope, and serenity." And whereas the Alpha P. Merrill Federal Building has been replaced with a new, safe, secure, functional federal building in the downtown Oklahoma City area that houses many of the offices once housed in the Alpha P. Merrill Federal Building, sending a message that the people and the government of the United States will not be cowed by terrorists. And whereas the 26th anniversary of the terrorist bombing of the Alpha P. Merrill Building is April 19, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the first session of the 58th Legislature that the Oklahoma House of Representatives sends its heartfelt remembrances to the families, friends, and neighbors of the 168 people killed in the terrorist bombing of the Alpha P. Merrill Federal Building in Oklahoma City. That the Oklahoma House of Representatives encourages all citizens of the state to pause for 168 seconds on April 19, 2021 to remember the 168 people who died in this senseless tragedy. That the Oklahoma House of Representatives sends its heartfelt remembrances to those injured in the bombing and expresses gratitude to the thousands of first responders, rescue workers, medical personnel, and volunteers from the community and across the nation who answered the call for help in the morning of the attack and in the days and weeks thereafter. That a copy of this resolution be sent to Kerry Watkins, Executive Director of the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum. Members, guests, I would like for us to stand and have a moment of silence for 168 seconds. Mr. Speaker.
Before I move adoption. Members of the House will observe a moment of silence for 168 seconds in remembrance of those killed at the Alpha P. Merrill Federal Building bombing.